this mean? Who has heard of this before? What is it in reference to? You are going to have all of these answers by the end of this presentation. Let's start with the stage of the battle. Who are the key players? The Confederate Army, who is represented with gray toy soldiers here, and the Union Army, represented with blue toy soldiers here. The two overall commanders are General Jubal Early for the Confederacy, Major General Lew Wallace for the Union. Where does this battle take place? Well, just miles from our school. Right in Frederick, right outside, miles away from our school. What do you think this railroad is that runs through? You guessed it, the B&O Railroad, Baltimore and Ohio Railroad. Right here we have Monocacy Junction. What river do you think this is? Yep, you guessed it, that's the Monocacy River. Right here is Georgetown Pike, which is now Urbana Pike, okay? Runs right through here. We have Best Farm right here, Worthington Farm, Thomas Farm, and Gambrill Mill. It is the job of the Union forces to stop the Confederacy from advancing. Where is the Confederate Army going? They are marching to attack Washington, D.C. And the Union troops located on this side of the river are here to defend and stop the Confederate forces from marching. So why and how did this whole plan come about? General Robert E. Lee, who is the overall commander of the Army of Northern Virginia, is stuck in Petersburg, Virginia, almost entirely surrounded by Union troops. He comes up with this plan to send his General Jubal Early, with 15,000 Confederate troops to attack D.C. What is his goal? What is his objective? His objective is to take D.C., to attack D.C., and force Union troops to leave Petersburg and go run and protect D.C. That way it frees up his army in Petersburg so that they have more independence and more room to maneuver. General Ulysses S. Grant, the overall commander of the Union forces, finds out what General Early is up to, and he lets Major General Lew Wallace know what is going on. So Major General Lew Wallace gets 3,200 inexperienced troops, meaning they do not have very much experience. He is later joined by another division of the Union, bringing his total force to 6,600 on July 9th of 1864. That is when the battle takes place. July 9th, 1864. So now that the stage is set, we start right here again at Georgetown Pike at 8:30 a.m., July 9th, 1864. The Confederate forces try to take the bridge, but as you can see, the bridge can be well defended by a few troops. All those 15,000 troops can't cross the bridge at the same time, so it's a lot easier to defend it than to cross it. General Jubal Early realizes this and sends his cavalry to ford the river. What does it mean to ford the river? That means you find a point in the river where it's not as deep and you can cross it. That is highlighted here by a lightly colored blue. to indicate that this is where the Worthington Ford was found out by the cavalry, meaning that there's a place to cross. This is about a mile downstream from the covered bridge. This takes place at 10 a.m. Major General Lew Wallace discovers that the cavalry and the Confederates have crossed the river. So he tells his soldiers to set the covered bridge on fire, thus eliminating this point to where the Confederates can no longer cross. That way, Major General Lew Wallace can concentrate all his force on the Confederate advance right past Worthington Farm. At 11 a.m., the Confederate cavalry crosses the river and starts their first attack. They dismount, meaning they get off their horses and they attack, but they don't realize that there's so many troops that are in the farm fields. So their first attack is completely unsuccessful, and they are repulsed back. They are forced to retreat. Now, the cavalry regains itself, and it starts its second attack again at 2 p.m. There is fierce fighting going back and forth, where the Confederates get pushed back, then the Union gets pushed back, and they go back and forth, right in front of the Worthington Farm. The Confederacy is reinforced by an entire division of Confederates. And at 3:30, they join the attack with the cavalry on Lew Wallace. That fighting goes back and forth all the way until 5 p.m. when the Union finally retreats back to Baltimore. So, fourth graders, the Confederacy wins the battle. But overall, the Union were successful in delaying the Confederacy, because what happened after this long battle, keep in mind the time. Fourth graders, we started way back over here at 8:30 a.m. The Union doesn't retreat until 5 p.m. Okay, so it's an entire day of fighting. The Confederate Army is in no condition to march on D.C. that night. So they have to camp on the field of Monocacy. They have to stay the night and start their march in the morning. This delay gives General Grant time to reinforce the forts that are surrounding D.C. so that when General Jubal Early's force finally gets to D.C. 2 days later, July 11th, the forts are once again reinforced. Thus, General Early's overall objective was not successful. They did not take D.C. General Early was forced to retreat back into Virginia. So General Robert E. Lee's overall plan did not work. Even though Major General Lew Wallace and the Union soldiers lost the Battle of Monocacy, they gained a strategic victory by delaying the Confederacy. So, fourth graders, again, the key point, the Union delayed the Confederates, giving time for more troops to be brought in to protect D.C. The battle that saved Washington. Thank you for listening, fourth graders.